struck a match to the underground. Industry ignited from metaphorical parables to fertilize the earth. Wicked niggas come, trying to burglarize the turf. Scatting off soft-ass beats to rap happily. Tragically, that style deteriorate rapidly. Uncompleted missions, throwing your best known compositions. You couldn't add it up if you master addition. Where I come
The
from,
Wu-Tang Clan, sometimes known as the Wu, are a hip-hop collective of rappers. They have 9 members and 1 ex-member who died. I'm probably going to pronounce some of these wrong. RZA, which I think is RZA, GZA, which I think is GZA, Inspector Deck, U-God, Ghostface Killer, Method Man, Raekwon, Master Killer, and Capadonna, and the late Old Dirty Bleep. They're an important East Coast rap band. They're from New York, and they have been a launching pad for quite a few of their members as solo artists. In fact, collectively, they've sold many, many records. They've been hugely influential and successful. They have been hailed by Chris X of Rolling Stone magazine as the best rap group ever. They're named after a cheesy martial arts film, and deliberately bring martial arts mythology into their music. They've created 7 studio albums. The first was in 1993, and the most recent was in 2015. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the second album by the Wu-Tang Clan, and it was done after obviously after the first album, but they did the first album, and then a lot of their members had solo albums in between, and then they came back together and did another group album. This is my first listen to this album, but I have listened to the Wu-Tang Clan before. And I have to confess that I've listened about 1 1/3 times. So normally I listen to an album twice when I'm reviewing it. Sometimes I kind of, as in this case, I kind of give up because I couldn't take any more. I listened to it about 1/3 of the way through in the car, and then after I came home, and well, I've actually been at home today, but today I've listened to the whole thing in one sitting, basically on my headphones. You're going to get the impression that I don't like this album. I didn't want to subject my kids to this at all. So let's try and do some description and try and dig into this. So, and I have to, as I often have to with, certainly with hip-hop and rap, and sometimes with jazz and with some other types of music, I have to confess that this is not my comfort area. This is not stuff that I would generally listen to, so I'm not particularly knowledgeable, and the terms that I use might be quite naive. So musically, I might describe this as hardcore rap or hardcore hip-hop. I don't know if that's correct or not, but the reason for saying that is because this is the less accessible end, to my mind, of hip hop, in that the music is very much down to the beats. So there are beats here, and then there's some little bits of backing. It's by no means full or comprehensive. Often, kind of even only one thing with kind of little repeated stuff. Now, I understand that. They say that they only do about 25% as samples, and so there's real instruments in here doing things. Some of the playing is quite, let's use the words unsophisticated for this. And I know some people like that kind of approach to things. To me, it turns me off somewhat. So there were occasionally, musically, I liked the groove. Mostly, I wasn't particularly bothered. I was kind of put up with it. It just, it's a noise there in the background. It's not hugely irritating as far as music that I don't like goes. It's okay. It's not that, this was whenever it was in the 90s, so that the drum sounds that are used are quite meaty, which in comparison to some of the move to have much more, I keep saying tinny drum sounds these days are quite often used. So yeah, occasionally it was musically all right. Sometimes it was just a little bit, not too keen. And before we get into the rap and the lyrics, there's vignettes between the tracks sometimes, quite often, in fact, which has been a classic thing for rap albums, hip hop albums for quite a long time now. So little kind of scenes that are, put together. I don't know how spontaneous they are when they're recorded. I think mostly they're kind of vaguely scripted and vaguely improvised as they go through. And then there's some clips from kung fu films as well in there, fairly obviously. So let's get into the rap. There's lots of rap. There's little bits of singing occasionally, but mostly this is about rap. And there are 9 of them. Then there are guests as well. So there are lots of different rappers in here. So I couldn't say that, again, my knowledge of rap is really not very, very good, obviously. There was one rapper on here that when I heard him, I thought, yeah, I know who that is. And that's the rapper who goes under the name of Dirty Old Yeep, who I won't say his full name properly on this channel. There's lots of aspects of the words that he used in this album that are things that I don't feel comfortable with putting out in the public on my channel. So as often, it's hard to hear the words at times, but not always. There are times when I can pick it up. Even then, when I can hear the words, sometimes I don't want to, and sometimes I can't. I can hear individual words and even quite a string of individual words, but I don't really know what the meaning is because there's quite a lot of talking in code and allusions here. And sometimes when it isn't, I maybe wish they were doing. So there's not everything here is things that I would describe as being problematic, but there are things here about violence, about sex particularly, a bit about drugs. There are some quite bad, to my mind, misogynist attitudes here. There's some casual homophobia, and often it's deeply foul in terms of the images that they're painting and their attitudes towards sex and towards women. Are not ones that I would want to encourage particularly. There are at least one track which is in the nature of the classic rap thing of we're the best rappers and everybody else is just fake. We're real. So it can't. I feel like it can't be true that every rapper is real and every other rapper is fake. So I guess it's just a way of bragging about your rapping. So that's fine. And then mixed in with this, there's some other stuff. So there's some stuff that's connected with what's called the 5% Nation. Now, this is I might get this wrong, but a pseudo-Islamic black nationalist movement that was especially in New York that rose up at the end of the 60s and has had a particular attraction, it would seem, to some black hip-hop artists. So there's a mix of some religious imagery in there as well. But actually, when I say religious, there'll be terms used that, about God that some people will take in one way, but actually is meant in another way. I've done a little bit of digging on the 5% Nation, and they're effectively a kind of let's move on. It's kind of it's esoteric, let's put it that way. There's another song in here which is very much out of the general kilter of the album, called Black Shampoo, which is mostly about a very pleasant sounding day, a description of going through, and a lot of it is allusions to the smells and the tastes and the kind of toiletry products that are being used at various points through this as well. And it paints a picture. There's actually quite a pleasant picture. There's it's by far the most palatable track on the album as far as I'm concerned. I would say, and musically, it's got a kind of synth pad background, which is again kind of picks it up. I'm not really sure what they were doing here, if this was meant to be ironic or they just wanted it in for balance or something. I don't know, but I'm certainly going to find it easier to find a bit of that hasn't got any words that I don't want to put on my channel as the thing that I'm going to put at the end of the credits. So I will do so, despite the fact that mostly what I try and do is the one on the introduction is possibly one of the singles, the best well-known or the most typical of the album, and then the second one is a bit of a contrast. And usually I don't always do things that are very out of the kilter for the rest of the album, but I am going to in this occasion. There's a reasonable amount of social commentary in here. Not all of the stuff about violence is reveling in the violence. Some of it's just a bit more matter of fact, I would say. So it's maybe better than some things in that sense. There is a lot of unsuitable language in here. It's that kind of area of rap. So it's long. It's nearly 2 hours long. I found it to be quite an endurance. I felt quite down actually at the end of it listening to it, so I'm not a great fan. So musically it's not my thing. I am starting to find that there are some rap albums that I like. This is definitely not one of them. It's often quite foul in its content. In terms of the album structure or the kind of balance of content, it's interesting or curious, I'd say, maybe, because of the 9 different front people here. So it feels, it's not really feeling like a compilation because it's not as disparate as that might sound, but it is more disparate than if you have, one singer or one rapper. So it feels like a kind of a variety pack. It feels like a Kellogg's pack of that you take away on holidays, of your variety pack of cereals. It's like they're all Kellogg's, but they're all different somehow. So it's scattered, but I think it kind of works together as an album. Not really sure about Black Shampoo, whether it works together in the album. But the rest of it, I'd say, kind of hangs together fairly well as an album, apart from the fact that I really don't like it. So that's what I think. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, or read them, in fact. So please do type them into the comments box. And that's it from me for now.
Hard days at work. You had a hard day at work, baby. I want you to sit down, relax, while I soak you in my mentals, back rub style. Sis. Massage, peppermint oil, shampoo and pears, cinnamon, aloe, natural for your